Here we are, everybody. So after Thanksgiving, we're in the beginnings of winter, starting strong with season 12. I don't know how everyone else's season's going. I hope it's been going well. I hope that you all find something to be thankful for in this lovely time of giving that we call holidays, and not in order not to offend anybody. But with that, we got a special guest here on the episode to go and take place of our usual guest. And if I have the right screen, I can actually click over because, like I was telling him before, this is a 100% purely professional podcast where we know everything that we're doing. But I would like everyone to give a nice, warm welcome to Mr. WolfCryer. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, Nine?
I am doing quite well, quite well. But whenever we go through and have somebody on the show, we like to give them a little bit of a floor space to go through. Tell us, who are you? What do you do, and why the hell are you on my lawn?
I am WolfCryer, Diablo 3 YouTuber, Twitch streamer, content creator for D3. I've been playing Diablo 3 since launch. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into the beta for Diablo 3, but yeah, been playing the game since it first came out. Took a little break here and there around when seasons came out, but came back strong season 4. And now I've been playing since.
There you go. And you're not the only one that didn't get into the beta. I myself, I think I got into the last month, of the 6-month long beta, and that was just because someone, I guess, just took pity on me and gave me a key to get in, and that
Nice.
was yeah, that was pretty limited, especially compared to Reaper. Reaper, I think, had a lot more people in it. I don't know if you were in the ROS beta.
I was not. I was even one of the last people into the Necro beta. Finally got that key, but it took forever for me to get into that.
That was definitely one of those things. Going forward, hopefully they'll go and start open it up, and as the community gets larger, they'll be able to have more space to go through and do it. And then that's, I guess, probably somewhat related to some of the things that I have to add in our topics for later tonight. But we'll have to go back and check and see that. But one of the reasons why Leviathan and I wanted to have you on the show was, for the season 12, and you've been doing this for a while, the Level with a Cause charity event that you've been coordinating and putting together. It was something that I didn't know Leviathan kind of wanted to take part of, but because of the sickness and illness and stuff like that, it was he had a little bit of a rough start going there. But I want to give the floor to you for a little bit to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I started Level with a Cause during season 11's opening event, and I set it up and gathered, I think that event was around the same amount, probably around 30, 35 streamers. Got us together. We raised some money for St. Jude during season 11's first 3 days. And then that went really well. We raised $7,500 then. So I wanted to do it again for season 12, and I was able to get a lot of streamers together as well. 32 streamers for season 12's event, including Riker, Bloodshed, Big Daddy Den, some really big streamers, so that was pretty cool. And we raised money for TakeThis.org, a very good organization that deals with anxiety and depression in the gaming community, and that was pretty cool. I really love putting that together. It takes a little bit of work, indeed, but it's definitely worth it. I love the whole charitable aspect. Level with a Cause so far in its 2 events combined has raised over $14,000 for charity, which is crazy.
And it's awesome that you can go through and do that off of people playing games.
I know, especially Diablo 3 streamers alone. We're just little streamers on Twitch, and we were able to do some good for the community and for charity, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, the Diablo 3 dead game. Yeah, we're a small, but we're a close knit community. I think those people that are still here going through, watching the content for the Diablo streamers, and everything there, is still, it's a really good group of people. And so it doesn't surprise me that even with, if someone were to go through and look at like the size of the Diablo streaming community, or even the people that watch Diablo 3 streams, to be able to go through and say after only 2 events raising over $14,000 for charity, that's really, really huge. And especially if it's something, I imagine this is something that you are looking forward into the future to go through and continue to do, possibly with every new season, or like what do you have plans for the future?
Yeah, actually, I've been already getting to work trying to figure out what our next charity is going to be so I can start getting a bigger head start on it. Next week, I'm probably going to be looking more into that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to make it a every season type event for the first 3 days of the season. With the new season starts on Thursday, we'll probably do the event from Thursday night into the weekend. That way everybody gets a chance to stream for us. Some streamers aren't available to the weekend, that sort of thing. But I'm thinking for now, staying with the whole switching up causes each time, at least for now. But yeah, I'm already starting to work on the next level with the cause, which is pretty cool.
So you're going through and you're getting it ready, like before the PTR, potential PTR, for the next season even gets underway.
Yeah, it takes a little while to gather the streamers, get the word out, contact everybody, make sure that everybody's set up for setting up their streams, their buttons, their campaigns. I use Tiltify because it's so much easier to not deal with the money personally. I don't personally want to be responsible for getting somebody else's money to somewhere else. I'd rather just go through a website like Tiltify, and it's pretty easy. But it takes a while to get everybody set up for that type of stuff, and I love doing it. It's a challenge at times. There were a few challenges in the last one, but we were able to work through it, fix them, and it went really well for everybody.
Especially with the last one, the season start coming like right on the hills of BlizzCon. That probably added a little bit of headaches for some of the people that were involved that might have been just traveling or what have you.
Yeah, definitely for the streamers that went to BlizzCon, they were very, very helpful in, getting their stuff set up, even though they were packing for BlizzCon, and then BlizzCon was over, and then it was right into the season and right into the streams pretty much. So shout out to them for their efforts in that.
Oh, it's really nice, especially when the community can come together around a good cause. As wonderful, as the Diablo community has a reputation for, we still care.
Yes, we do.
And you were mentioning that you do YouTube and Twitch content, but what is kind of like one of your favorite things to do, like within the community, from like streaming and other things of that nature?
Pretty much just, I love streaming because I just get to chill with some awesome members of the community. It's also been really cool to talk with some other content creators as of late, the community as a whole, people like Riker, SVR, Leviathan, Bloodshed, all of them, they're just really awesome people to talk to, and I've been able to talk to them more, and it's just pretty cool to be a part of the community itself.
And is there, besides, of course, like the you're already starting planning for the next level with the cause event going forward for season 13, but is there anything else that you're planning, or anything that you're looking to do, like within the community, or reach out or do anything?
Not sure on that yet. I'm still going to be doing the YouTube videos, doing the Twitch stream. Hopefully, eventually I'll get partnered on Twitch. That's the current personal goal with the whole thing. I did just apply, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out for me.
Yeah, best of luck on that one. And again, I mentioned this like before we went through and started with the pre-show, but I hope that any complications that might have arisen from going through and adding you on to the Diablo fans page, hopefully didn't cause anything that might call that into question for the partnership. Because that was just, going through and talking with the editors over there, and we really liked, what you were doing, and it was something that we wanted to host, the kind of like the collection both from EU and NA that were, doing that level with a cause charity event.
Oh, no, I was very grateful for that. That was very awesome of Diablo fans, and just very grateful in general. And plus, how can I complain with 400 viewers on my on my Twitch stream? There's no complaints there.
Yeah. Let's see. And while we're still going through and kind of like doing your introductions here, is there any before we kind of like start diving into like season 12 and our time with playing Diablo so far, is there anything else that you want to kind of like throw out there or talk about, or this is your platform right now?
Nice. Not that I know of. I mean, I just want to give a shout out to my crew, Draves to Vipers, Vital, Voldimitsu. You guys are the best. Anybody I forgot, sorry. But yeah, it's been a very fun season so far. Definitely loving the groups that I've been playing with, and just the community in general has been just absolutely epic.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that's one of the big things that's always like the great, especially with the season openers. Like every new season that you have, you've got people that are going and coming back on. There's a lot, because the majority of people that play Diablo 3, they're seasonal players, like true and true. They'll come on, they'll start playing the season, and then after like a couple weeks, a month into it, they drop off. I kind of gone through. I've gotten my goals of whatever I wanted to do. I wanted to just complete the first 4 chapters, or I wanted to get Guardian. I always play every season until I hit at least Paragon 1000, or maybe this one I wanted to go until I hit Greater Rift 100 solo, for the first time, what have you. But it always manages at least to pull people in, and you have that community feeling here at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. It starts to fall off about 3-4 weeks in, and progressively more so, but I'm looking to continue this season and push as hard as I can. Still going to be casual, because those of us with full-time day jobs,
preach it.
It takes a lot of time away from it. So definitely still looking to keep playing, having a ton of fun with this season so far.
This was like the season that traditionally I've always been a hardcore player. Well, I can't say always, but for all of Reaper, I've been a hardcore player. But my internet connection at my current place of residence ended up being really bad. Really, really bad. As everyone, or most, the usuals over in chat will be able to contend to that. And how many people have watched me, almost die and have heart attacks because the stream started lagging. But this season I was playing softcore for the first time, and I wanted to go back in and play Necromancer, my favorite. This is the Necromancer has like been my favorite since like 2001. I'm not wanting to be on like the Necromancer bandwagon just because it's the new thing. This has been my class. It took me like 6 or 7 years of playing Diablo 2 to realize there were other classes other than the Necromancer. And I wanted to actually go through and try out, try goals, especially getting it with the free set and what have you. And then, like you're mentioning, work has been kicking my ass. And so I've had, since our last recorded episode, I've had 1 day off. And yeah, not a lot of time for Diablo. I completed a couple steps in the seasonal journey and managed to go through and get down a Greater Rift 75, but it's been a very, very casual season for me.
Nice. Yeah, work's definitely been taking its toll on me. I have completed 100 GR so far.
Nice.
But that's on Wave of Light, which is super OP this season, so almost easy to do.
That's like the one thing that always is just like, we played on the PTR. We knew what was coming with all like the set buffs, and like Greater Rift 100 is kind of like now like just kind of like that. It's a stepping stone, it's kind of like it's a psychological the kind of like goal more so than you know, like a real like stopping point. Most people are going to be able to go through and clear like a Greater Rift 100 without any issue. I mean, people are doing it left and right, even with somewhat casual play just in the last few weeks of the season that we've had. And I was actually shocked, like just one of those things, like the big, like just the massive power boost across the board. Because I went through and completed a Greater Rift 75 on my Necromancer without a single piece of ancient gear. And I'm just like looking at it, it's like, wow. You know, it's just even that like little thing.
Yeah, it's been crazy this season. The power creep, as people call it, has been just off the chain pretty much.
And like kind of like what is your take? How have you felt about like a lot of these in season 12 and patch 2.6.1 in general, as far as this power creep and kind of the rebalancing of the class sets?
I personally, I love it. Like, I think it brought some people back. I think it balanced out a lot of the builds. You don't see that on the leaderboards because there's always going to be a meta. There's also always going to be copy and paste from the community itself that this is what the number one guy is running, so I'm going to run that. But it had a lot more balancing to it. For instance, I could have probably completed 100 by now with Uliana's EP, as well as Wave of Light, but Wave of Light's just going to be the more powerful one, but Uliana's isn't that far behind. So this patch allows you to play what you want to play and get further than you've ever gotten before. So I think that people can play what they want to. They don't have to push the boards and still feel a sense of accomplishment within the game. Some people dislike power creep, but overall, I think the game really needed it to try to draw some more people back in.
Yeah, it's just awesome being able to go through. We talked a little bit more at length on this in like the past couple episodes between Leviathan and myself, that it's kind of like one of those things, like even though the Greater Rift 100, is far, from the cap in terms of difficulty, it seems like for a lot of people, especially the more casual players, it's a milestone being able to say that I can do it. And maybe they don't care so much about pushing for the top of the leaderboard because they have some other kind of easily identifiable goal that they can complete.
I definitely agree. Plus, grouping, even in group play, you're able to take several different compositions and do that 100 GR as well. So even for your group, when you're playing and just chilling with your friends, you guys don't care about the leaderboards, that sort of thing. You're able to do a lot more than you used to, and with a lot of different setups. You should probably be able to take 5 or 6 different setups into GR 110 and be able to knock it down.
Yeah, and the top meta, especially for group play, is very far from figured out right now. We saw that in the last season, where kind of some of the top builds didn't come in until halfway through the season, and so there's a lot of things that will be shifting and changing as they try out different permutations of the groups. And go ahead.
It's probably going to be like that a little bit with the solo as well, where even if it's the same build, it could be one different skill or one different passive or something like that. If you look at R6, how it changed from season 6 to season 8, even though there were no changes to the items or the gear or the set, it changed as each season progressed as well. So by the time season 9 ended, R6 was a completely different build than when it first took over as the prominent monk build.
And that is just they don't even, like you were saying, it doesn't even necessarily have to change itself, but as other dynamics, the Tetris pieces shift, and so what can we fit in here, instead?
Yep.
And What do you plan on particularly like playing like through season 12? Are you dead set like on the monk, or are you gonna be swapping it up? Maybe for group play, or like how do you approach the season? You have like your favorite class, or do you hit it maybe more like Leviathan, where he's got kind of like a build and something else for every particular occasion?
I do have a favorite class. I've played monk pretty exclusively since season 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my favorite class. So I'll be playing a lot of Wave of Light. I'll be playing ZDPS Monk, which is my favorite group build. But I've already got my Necromancer starting to gear up so that I could run the RGK with Pestilence build.
Mm-hmm.
And I also leveled up a Crusader, which I'm starting to gear as well, because I ran a poll and Crusader won for my 3rd class. So I want to make sure that I get that going next week, the latest, so that I can play some Crusader. I've never played Crusader, and I definitely want to check that out, especially with the buffs to all of its builds as well.
And I'm sure Leviathan wishes that he was here right now in order to geek out with you about that, because
nice.
He is like the world's biggest Crusader fan, and he was just waiting for his time in the sun. That, of course, is what he's been hitting really hard this particular season. His favorite class. It's nice to see that you can play a Crusader and not be laughed at this season.
Exactly, and you can play them in groups to a certain point at least, and that's what I'm loving about 2.6.1 is everything's pretty much back. You've got Hoda Barbs are back, Charge Barbs are back. You've got Crusader with the Akan builds. You've got even Blessed Hammer got buffed, so it's not out of the question to push with that as well. You've got several monk builds, a couple of DH builds that are just plain amazing.
I was just about to say, and you've got your janky 2-set Demon Hunter builds that are like making a comeback, which everyone always tries to make work. I remember this being like one of the big things like back in the early seasons, is like the M4, S4 and such, and then now we have like the Nats Marauders build, kind of like floating around. It was just like that. I love seeing like the creativeness with it. I always wondered why it's like the Demon Hunter was like one of the like the kind of like the non-support, like kind of like pure DPS type classes that I've ever seen that uses like the multiple sets going alongside it.
Yeah, it's very, very awesome to see.
No, and also it's something that I'd be interested in, because when the Demon Hunter was like my class until they came out with the Necromancer, Marauders was my favorite, but it always just had that little thing that it lagged behind, Unholy Essence, but now kind of like seeing that as like a kind of like a big potentially competitive build. And Natalia's, where I don't have to hold down the button for strafe 100% of the time, and I can actually not get carpal tunnel from playing the spec, was pretty interesting. And with having kind of like gone through and talked about season 12 and that, where do you think the game goes from here? Like what do you expect? Not, and this isn't. I'll go through and kind of like cap this without talking about a potential next game in the series or whatever, like the unannounced project that they're working on. Where do you think that they take Diablo 3 itself? Kind of like from this point going forward. What do you think is going on like in the devs' minds?
That I'm unsure. I'd like to think that there's going to be more work done to it, but my fears are the opposite with patch 2.6.1. I mean, it was a huge patch. It was definitely a big rebalancing, and that could either mean that they're looking to keep working on this game, which is what we're all hoping for, or it could mean that they were looking to shelve it with the possibility of a maintenance mode type of situation, as far as getting one big last patch out where try to make everybody happy and sit down for a little while and work on the next game. But I'd love to see the Druid. I would love to see the Druid. I would be the first person buying a Druid. That was my class in Diablo 2. That was actually the very first time I used the name WolfCryer, and that was my go-to guy on Diablo 2. So I'm hoping there's going to be one more class at least.
Yeah, and I know that was something Riker really pushed through, like the tinfoil hat videos about, you know, like calling that the Druid was coming. It was something we talked about on the show for a while after they announced the Necromancer. Like after last year's BlizzCon, we immediately started talking about, well, it's really cool. They went through and announced the Necromancer. What are they going to come out with next? But it was just like some of the verbiage that they started using and some of the press stuff that they were doing for the Necromancer changed. Where they started talking about, you know, they were asked, you know, why the Necromancer, why now? Oh, well, we felt it would be cool, you know, for the 20th anniversary to do another class. And so it kind of like seemed as if it was like the Necromancer was something like really special. And we never will know like how financially successful the Necromancer is or isn't. I certainly have seen a ton of people running around with the Necromancer. So I want to say it probably was a bit more on the successful side.
I bought 25 of them.
There you go. And I don't even know like how they're handling like the release of the Necromancer in like the other non-standard regions such as like China and what have you, like in the free-to-play areas. If they're going to be if the Necromancer will also be free to play, or if you have to use, like platinum, or like kind of like also have to purchase them in those communities. There's all these different areas where Diablo 3 is also pretty popular, and we don't really quite understand the full metrics of how they operate.
Yeah,
it is funny that kind of like how you mentioned, like it was the patch 2.6.1, like the love note and the send off, or is this like a doubling down of dedication and support? And I think we'll probably have our answer like in another week or two, because that like the first week of December next week should be around when the PTR goes live, if there is a PTR.
Well, I think that even if there isn't a PTR, there have been other seasons where there wasn't a PTR, and it didn't. And at that point, we all thought maintenance mode, but then all of a sudden, the Necromancer was released. So who knows? Maybe it's not. Knock on wood. Let's hope it's going to continue for a little while more.
Yep. We're actually kind of like in the pseudo anniversary of that, because that was season 8. Was the one season that they released without a patch. And just as you said, that was like kind of like everyone was going doom and gloom maintenance mode, and then of course we hit into it, and then BlizzCon and the Necromancer's coming, so it definitely like was not maintenance mode. And now I guess it's the conversation is we didn't really get anything at BlizzCon as far as new announcements. They did like kind of reaffirm their love and dedication like to the game and the franchise as a whole, and their investment into the community and making sure that the community itself is strong. But anyone that's been following the show for a while, and anyone that might be new here coming in to cheer you on the episode, we kind of always ask the question, at what point do you stop production for Diablo 3 and really focus in on production for Diablo 4, Diablo Next, like what that other title might be? Because you can definitely see that in like going back. You mentioned like with Diablo 2, you had like kind of like one of their big like super like restructuring of the game was patch 1.10 that came out in 2003, which was 2 years after Lord of Destruction came out. And then afterwards, it slumped.
Yep.
Because like patch 2.11 was like then 2 years after that. And then patch 2.12 was another 3 years after that. But at that point in time, that we've seen in interviews, with David Brevik and other people from Blizzard North and the original designers of Diablo 2, when they were talking about it, after Lord of Destruction shipped, they had immediately begun production on the beginnings of Diablo 3. That when in around 2003, Blizzard North, kind of like shut its doors. There was the people that left, and then everything else in Blizzard North was kind of like brought into Blizzard proper. And then it was another 2 years after that where they kind of like scratched the project and then restarted from scratch. In 2005, I think it was when like the current version that we have of Diablo 3 like really began development in earnest. And so it's just like you have like kind of like those time periods where they're still going out and reaching for support, but you're talking it was years in between their patches back then. Whereas here, we still have been consistently getting patches, every couple of months.
Yeah, which is definitely still something that's cool about Diablo 3 is they're always readjusting and treating it as if it has more of a value to them, which it does the more they do with Diablo 3, I think the more successful it would make the next Diablo game, because it'll keep the community involved and hopefully make them see that, Blizzard is working on this. So when the next one rolls around, they won't be nervous that Blizzard's just going to throw them something and walk away. So it's still very good to see that Diablo is still active in its community and with patches and that sort of thing. So hopefully that does continue.
Yeah, we definitely all hope, and I guess it's like one of those. It kind of like comes into question ever since it was I believe it was the original launch of Diablo 3, because it was such a long time period. It was the 4 years from announcement until release, and a lot of people, of course, gave Blizzard shit about that. Then tie in like the rockiness of the original launch. That like kind of Blizzard, almost all of their projects since then, it's been from announcement to release is less than a year, and so we don't know if we should expect that for like the next Diablo project. So are we gonna see like more season 8s where we'll have maybe every 2 seasons we'll get some sort of like content patch? Or will those content patches be more along the lines of like rebalancing? We'll tweak some numbers here, tweak some numbers there. Maybe we'll just add in like a legendary affix on this item, and that there'll be smaller patches, more dispersed as they continue to ramp up production on whatever that unannounced project is.
I'd like to see them, keep maybe changing up some legendaries that are useless, that sort of thing. I mean, even if they do small tweaks like that here and there in the game, it would add a little bit to the game, because all of a sudden there's something new just because one legendary changed where a certain skill does this, and now that skill somehow became somewhat viable or workable. So hopefully they continue to do that type of stuff where they reinvent some of the legendary items, some of the useless ones, the hundreds of useless ones.
Yep. It's so many out there that still don't even have a legendary property whatsoever.
And it's not like something like that would take a lot of resources. So I think that while they're working on the next Diablo, they might work with something like that, giving us just one per class every now and then, and just balance it out here and there. Just
lock Don Vu in a closet and say you can't come out until you've got a new item.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that this next, following patch 2.6.1, what we get for the next season could be an interesting indicator of what direction they might want to go. with the game until then. Or who knows? Next year they might go through and not announce a new game, but instead hey. We had enough of a good reaction to the Necromancer that, we are going to go through and do another class. We're going to come out with the Druid or the Amazon, or we're going to do something new. And so we might kind of hit more of a, kind of like the Diablo 2 release schedule, where they will still give us like some nice big, content, but it will be, maybe a year or two in between.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing something new altogether. I thought that the dev team after the Necro had pretty much talked about maybe making something completely new, something that's theirs. So hopefully maybe that could come to fruition as well. And hopefully it's not done. I'm definitely hoping that Diablo 3 keeps plugging away until we get that announcement for the next Diablo game.
Yep, we all are sitting back and hoping. But I guess not necessarily like completely new content, but January is coming up, and so we will be going through and having the anniversary event, the Darkening of Tristram, coming back up, which will run the entire month of January.
Hopefully, there's a new cosmetic that goes with that, and not the same one.
No, I'm not. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that, because at one side, it's like, I guess I would like it if they add in a new achievement for the new cosmetic item, as opposed to replacing it. So that way, if someone didn't complete the event last year, that they would still have the option of going back and getting it. Though, I mean, also it's like with your, portrait frames and pets, as well as some of the wings, you potentially could have earned them in a previous season, and there's just no way of going back. Which actually now is making me think, how would you react if one season they reused one of the rewards? If they went back and added in, like the portrait frame reward from season 1, or like the pet reward from season 5. I'm pulling a random season. God, I hope that there was a pet that was rewarded in 5.
I would have to say there's definitely some things I don't have, but at the same time, I don't think that should actually happen, because you know what? You snooze, you lose. Any that I've missed and didn't participate, then I shouldn't get them. Those should be legacy items that make it special to the people that already have them. For competing in that season itself.
Yeah, and I mean that is the way that it's currently treated, and so I don't know. That's one that I always kind of wonder to myself about, like going and reusing that stuff. Is it something that they'll ever find themselves rolling around back to, or if it just is what it is? Like you said, you snooze, you lose. And with that, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or any ideas that you have for like the future of Diablo, or even just like going into like whatever the next game is? Is there something that you think like D3 is missing that they might not be able to do like within the engine, and you'd like to see them do in the future?
Oh, that I'm definitely not sure on. I'd have to do some more thought as far as that goes, because I mean, we all have differences of opinions on that, and there's tons of ways that they could go. They could just keep plugging away like they are now. They could turn it into an MMO, which is a very different topic as far as whether people would buy into that. So it's hard to say. It's definitely hard to say. I'd like to see more more ways to compete against other people. The challenge rifts and the leaderboards, I'm glad that they created the challenge rifts, because it gives people another option for competing. So something else similar to that, as far as different ways to do different things in the game, I guess.
And because you did not go to BlizzCon, right?
I did not. I wish someday I'll make it to BlizzCon, but I did not.
Yeah, because that was when that we were looking at the BlizzCon exclusive demo, and like how it was kind of like it was a handcrafted Rift, with like set certain things that you had to accomplish before you could move on to the next level. And I think that's something, if they kind of take a little bit of a cue from like World of Warcraft's like Mythic Dungeons, so you could potentially bring some of that level of like competitive PvE racing, to the game.
That wouldn't be bad at all. Something that I think would be pretty cool, similar to like a dungeon type Rift where everything's exactly the same for everybody, but takes more of a team effort, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but moving on from there, one of the other topics that we wanted to go through and bring on the show, and I know I feel really bad because this was something that Leviathan like really wanted to talk about, and it's something that that's affected him in his competitive nature for a while now, and that's kind of like the topic of botting within Diablo 3. And you released a video, I think it was back in October, where you talked about botting and just like some of the research that you've done on it, and your thoughts on bots, what ban waves mean to the community, and some other things like that. Like, and if you'd like to take a minute to kind of like go and explain like some of the research that you've done and like what your stance and thoughts are on it.
Most of the time, I research gameplay, game time for people playing, stuff like that. See how it correlates to how much time has passed in the season. I keep an eye on that stuff as far as the leaderboards go. Not really often. I don't let it consume me, but at the same time, I do talk about botting and cheating a lot in Diablo 3 and what Blizzard's doing about it. I make ban wave videos, etc. That's not the focus of my channel, but it does happen, and I do think that it's a pretty big issue as far as Diablo 3 goes, in the fact that it affects the community. It affects those legitimate competitive people, and it affects the game itself as far as people's view of it. And that's why when Blizzard does ban waves, it's very good, not only that they're taking the people off of the leaderboards that are cheating, but it's also showing that Blizzard cares about the competitiveness of its game. Even though it's not a really competitive game, we all know there's no reward for being the #1 guy on the leaderboards, that sort of thing. But there are people who just personally like to compete, whether there's a reward or not. I'm personally very competitive, but usually I compete against, what I've done last season rather than trying to get that #1 spot. I know I'm not going to get 2,000 Paragon this season just because of time. But I would like to have more of a level playing field, as would many other people.
Yeah, especially those people that are going for that top spot, and that extra 500 Paragon levels, at the end of a season could really make a difference.
Exactly. And actually, I was in Riker's stream today, and I was talking to somebody had brought up botting, etc., and was like trying to put out there that botting doesn't give you Paragon because you just bought keys and stuff like that. But that's a blatant lie, because botting gives you Paragon because those 10 hours you were farming keys while you were at work turns into 8 hours you can farm Paragon while you're out of work. So for me, while I'm not botting at work, I got to come home and farm those keys for the same amount of time to get those keys. And that time that I spent getting the keys, you can use that time for farming Paragon. So whether you're botting for bounty mats or you're botting for keys, you're still botting Paragon, because it's freeing up your time to be able to do those 3-minute 100 rat runs, you know? So, and it's just got a negative effect, I think, on the community. And this community is pretty awesome for the most part, but you've got people that sully the community and streamers in general. I think it gives streamers a bad name when they've got 1,000 Paragon. Somebody comes into my stream and says, you must be a bot or you've got 1,000 Paragon, even though this season it's fairly easy to do that with the power creep. But just because I'm a streamer,
like the random Joe Schmo that's like, I'm only Paragon 600 and you're 1,000, so obviously you bot. It's not that you just legitimately play more than I do. You have to bot.
Right. But I mean, unfortunately, I mean, it's pretty known that there are streamers out there who are botting and that sort of thing, and it leads the community to think all of a sudden, well, then they must be cheating too. So that means the top 5 people, number 4 might not be botting, number 3, 4 might not be botting, but if 1, 2, and 5 are, the assumption is that so are 3 and 4. So I think it just gives a bad name to the leaderboards. It gives a bad name to the game in general, for the most part, if they're not doing something about it. And it's been 2 seasons since they've done a massive ban wave, at least a viewable ban wave. So people aren't being deleted off of the leaderboards, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think it's definitely time that they do one, just to show that, all right, this patch came out, we wanted a bunch of people playing the game again, now let's make it legit.
Yeah. And I guess that's you know, one of the sides of it for like on Blizzard, because they don't like talking about how they handle botting.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it is one of those. It's not even handled by the D3 team at all. It's like a completely separate department within Blizzard that's responsible for doing the botting and the banning, and so there's not even kind of like a community interaction set from there where we would be able to like ask someone questions or anything about it. That they're completely removed. They're kind of like to my understanding at least, it's the same team that handles it for like say like World of Warcraft or Overwatch also handles it for Diablo 3. They obviously use like different tools in order to go through and find them for each of the games, but you know, it's all this one team that's going through and handling like the warden in the security aspects of Battle.net in the games.
Yeah, and unfortunately a lot of people don't understand that, so you got the forums being spammed and my community managers having to put a post that, you know, we don't talk about this. We never have announced ban waves. We've never pointed out which people have been banned, that sort of thing. And right about now, I mean, there's just tons of posts going up on the forums, and they've had to pretty much lock them down because of spam and that sort of thing. But yeah, a lot of people don't understand that the community managers and the dev team itself aren't the ones responsible for that sort of thing.
And you know, trust me, like they want to see like the whole botting issue solved just as much as anyone else. There's always like that tinfoil hat theory that people talk about. Oh, they love botters because every time they get banned, they buy a new copy of the game, and it's the only way that they can, you know, support Diablo 3 with new box sales. It's like that's like ludicrous because it affects it's such a small amount of the overall like total sales of the game that probably doesn't even cover their cable bill. For a month, you know, going through and doing a ban wave. Hell, it probably doesn't even pay for the people that work doing the bans to ban all those people that go back and repurchase, you know, like the box game afterwards. It's just like so like ridiculous, but it's something that they are very passionate about. Just the fact that they want to have like that certain level of legitimacy within the game, and part of that even not being a competitive game, despite like the leaderboards. They want to keep like that level playing field. And it's always the escalation, that escalating battle. You shut down one tool, and then they'll build another one to use. And like, how can we shut down this one? How can we track it?
Exactly, and I think that's where a lot of people also don't understand that the bots are constantly changing. They get harder to detect, and new efforts need to be made to detect those. It's not that the Blizzard team is going, we don't want nothing to do with that. It's that they do try, I think, but every iteration of the bot, they have to find a different way to detect that, etc. I mean, we can look at certain streamers and we can see that they're talking about it, etc. But if Blizzard can't detect that, they can't ban him, because if they're wrong, then they've done something that they really shouldn't have done.
Yeah, because then you're like, the whole process of banning someone is because it's in the terms of service that they're not allowed to. And if you go through, and like what you're saying, and you make a great case, those people that like have like 399 out of 400 possible hours of the season, play time and such, like that pretty much is a dead giveaway. Everyone can kind of like sit there and be like, yeah, you're botting. But from Blizzard's standpoint, they need to actually prove it. That in and of itself, despite kind of like being a near physical impossibility, isn't like quite enough to hold up for like a TOS violation to then ban them if they wanted to like fight back against it. And so it's a shitty situation, and I do not envy Blizzard, because they're they're the one that kind of like sits there and has to represent. They're the one that has to like put the foot down and ban people, but they're also bound by their own ability with which they can enforce those rules.
Yep, exactly. And I think that plus they take a lot of the heat from the community when they don't do those ban waves, even though they can't prove it yet.
Yeah.
I personally would kind of expect a ban wave this season, just because it's been a couple of seasons, just because there is so much of an uproar in the community, especially with some people blatantly showboating it as of late. I think that they will actively try, at least I'm hoping, but I think that they end up in a situation where it's kind of lose-lose for them with that. If they don't do anything, they look bad. But if they do something inadvertently banning somebody who shouldn't be banned, then it could be even worse for the company. And it's a business.
Yeah, and I know that's something that every time that there is a ban wave, you always see someone posting a story about how, like, I didn't do anything. I wasn't botting or whatever. But I always wonder about those claims, and because a lot of them have kind of like been disproven, where someone is going and talking about, it's like I got banned, but I never did anything wrong. I wasn't botting or anything like that. And then someone goes through and finds, well, hey, there's someone on this botting forum with your username that posts like you do, claiming and talking about botting all the time. And then all of a sudden, a comment gets deleted. Like, oh, well then, not to say that it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, I'm just statistics and probability it has, but I've not really seen too many cases of someone actually like
coming back and saying I've been reinstated.
Yeah. But I do share like similar thoughts on you, that since this is kind of like a really big patch and bringing people in, especially after like you had the Necromancer patch, the new class, everyone coming back for that, and then like the whole rebalancing where, hey, guess what? Necromancer was the hotness last season, but now you can play anything, like literally any class, any set that you want, and still feel as if you're making like these huge steps of accomplishment within your own like personal journey through the season. That we might see that come back around. with another big ban wave. But then again, of course, it's handled by someone else that has, and we have no idea what their schedule or plans for it are.
Exactly. So hopefully it does come to pass, but we'll have to wait and see, and just do what I do and just compete as well as you can. I mean, we all know there's cheaters, and if you're one of those guys that wants to compete on the leaderboards, just keep that in mind. If you make it to top 100, you did damn well, because there's people above you currently that shouldn't be there, and if there is a ban wave, you'll be bumped up.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think that pretty much kind of like wraps up a lot that we have to talk about on this episode. And again, sorry for Leviathan, being sick and kind of like down for the count on that. But before we kind of like go through and get into our community section, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? Like just general stuff within the community, Diablo 3 in general? Anything else?
Personally, I just want to thank everybody in this community. This community's been very welcoming to me. YouTube's been pretty amazing. Twitch streams have been amazing, and the community in general, my fellow streamers, all the people I play with, my clan, that sort of thing, as well as everybody that I talk to, both on YouTube and Twitch. I mean, this community is just straight up amazing, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I will continue to do so well into Diablo 4.
I hear you on that, and I'm really excited for what the future could hold for the franchise. But with that, we're going to go through and hop on into our our community feedback section here. Leviathan is not here, so I've got to read all of these emails on my own, though luckily it seems that there's not a lot of reading. We have not too many emails to go through, so this will save everyone involved from having to go through and listen to me speak for longer than you have to. But this email goes through, and this one comes in from Berghagen77. Hope I got that one right. But sup fellas, long-time listener, Berghagen77 from Sweden here. I've been playing Diablo 3 since launch and just wanted to share with you my greatest find so far. I'm playing Demon Hunter in Hardcore for Season 12 and was just about to do my second try on the Superhuman Conquest when I saw that I had enough materials to reforge my non-Ancient Yang's recurve one time. So I went for it and got this bad boy. You'll go through and see that one in a little bit when we get to the items of the week. But I had abandoned my first try pretty quick because of low damage, but with this primal, I managed to knock it out of the park in just 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Very nice. The bow also allowed me to complete Guardian solo in the seasonal journey for the first time, and it only took me about 40 hours of gameplay. And it was really awesome how just like a single item, especially, but like getting a primal weapon early into the season is definitely that's an awesome find to get you started. I have already lost 1 DH due to a disconnect. Feels like the mandatory thing to lose at least one character this way every season at this point. Preach it. And hopefully I'll get to keep this one for a long time. Also remembered seeing Leviathan get his primal Yangs in Season 10, and I got about that same feeling when I first saw mine. I got Vitality on mine instead of attack speed, but that's just fine, since I'm a big coward while playing Hardcore. Thank you for doing a great show that's both informative and fun, and keep up the good work, guys. Hardcore hugs from Berghagen. Thanks again for that email. It's really awesome. We'll be able to go through and show everybody here at the show and for our listeners that awesome Primal Yangs. And when I was playing Hardcore, even before my stream problems, I feel ya. I always felt that I would rather take the Vitality. I never push too high into the Paragons where I could go through and reliably start rolling Vit off of my items. I always had to have a little bit more concern about my survivability than going full bore DPS. But one day, right? And from that, that is our emails. All one of them, because everything else were items of the week, which we're actually going to be jumping into. And so this section is actually going to be a little bit longer than it has for the last couple of episodes. I think this might be the longest items of the week that we've had in a while. And WolfCryer, you're more than welcome to go through and follow along. I know you'll have to, with our super duper fancy like high tech stream here, you're gonna have to wait for it to come up on the stream. But we'll go through and play along with this for the folks at home. So without further ado, for everybody watching along at home, we have our items of the week. Leviathan's not here to do the echo, unless you want to.
I'm all set.
Are you sure? You just say week.
Week.
There we go. We should actually turn this in that whenever we have a special guest on the show, they have to do the echo and not tell them.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, we have to
tell them.
Not tell them. Yeah, it's like, so now you have to do the bumper into the next segment. And I feel that I have now talked long enough for the item to have shown up on the stream, so you can follow along too, and no one is going to notice that you can't actually see. I promise. So this Yang's recurve, this bad boy. This clocks in at 3,432 DPS. It rolled with 10% weapon damage, 1,000 dex, 1,000 vit. Of course, the perfect all resource costs reduced by 50. Is rerolled the secondary property for the 12 max discipline and legendary property of the 50% faster attack speed on multi-shot, and increases multi-shot damage by 200%. And the Ramalada Ding Dongs in there, of course, with Emerald for the socket. That is a very, very beautiful piece. And imagine getting this, because I think that he actually sent this one in over a week ago. You know, you're just like 2 weeks into the season and grabbing this bad boy. That is very, very impressive.
That is a really nice bow.
Yep. Next, we got an item from a longtime listener, Coach. This one is a Primal Blade of Prophecy. This one clocks in at 4,449 DPS. Has 10%. Has been re-rolled for the 10% weapon damage. 1,465 strength. Reduces cooldown of all skills by 10%. Secondary property of ignores durability loss. And of course, the 2 condemns trigger whenever your condemn explosion goes off, and the damage of condemn is increased by 800%, with Ramaladni's in there for a socket. And I can't. This is like the one aspect that I can't wait for Leviathan to go back and watch this show, even though he like this item is sitting in there, and I know he's probably already seen it and cried about getting it. That he's gonna have to go and watch this again and be reminded of its existence. Moving on, coming in, another longtime listener, Knight, how you doing, man? Love you, brother. This Bull Kathos Solemn Vow clocks in at 2,736 DPS, has 1,000 strength, 1,000 vitality, has the 1,200 life per fury spent, has the secondary stats of 12 maximum fury and the 2.6% chance to stun on hit. And it's not been touched. No rerolls on it so far. So I guess he's probably deciding on what direction that he wants to go with it. That is a very, very beautiful item. And I think that is going to lead us into the next one, which is not yet our last primal. We got a lot of primals so far for people going through and sending them in this season. But this one, again, comes in from another longtime listener, No One's Minion. Most people should remember No One. Do you remember No One? Oh, no. It's just No One. This one is more just, kind of like, I would love to see the Corrupted Ashbringer reworked into, like, an actual, like, useful item for, like, builds. Well, I don't know if we ever will, but this Corrupted Ashbringer goes through, weighs in at 4,044 DPS, 1,465 int, 24% chance to proc area damage, reduces the cooldown of all skills by 10%, 15% increased damage to undead, 17,000 life after each kill, and the legendary bonus that after you go through and kill an enemy, you have a chance to raise a skeleton. Upon accumulating 5 skeletons, they'll explode for damage, and then make it so that way all of your attacks with the Ashbringer deal an extra 6,000% weapon damage as holy while it's empowered. Beautiful, beautiful item. If you play World of Warcraft, you're jealous of paladins and you wish that you could use one. Still waiting for my Frostmourne to make its way into Diablo 3. That's what I'm waiting for. Do you play World of Warcraft at all?
I did. I don't anymore. I haven't played since before Lich King.
Oh.
So it's been a while.
That has been a while.
Yes.
Was there any item that you'd like to see? Because they brought over the Corrupted Ashbringer. Is there anything that you'd like to see them bring over?
No, Thunder Fury's in the game already, so
yeah.
we're good. Just needs a use.
Did you say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker? And this next item here, this one comes in from Lala. I have no idea who she is. This one is I'm sorry, Lala. I see you in chat. All love, I promise. This one is Nilfer's Boast. These boots clock in with 650 intelligence, 650 vitality, 130 all resist, has been re-rolled to increase meteor damage by 15%. The secondary property of increases gold and health globe pickup range by 2 yards, and then of course it increases the damage of meteor by 600%, and when your meteor hits 3 or fewer enemies, damage is increased by an additional 900% damage on that one. Very sorry for this next item going through and coming in, because this one is actually a picture of a screenshot or something along those lines. But this one comes in from Sifrodius. I hope I'm saying that right. Sifrodeus? I'm not sure. I'm butchering that. I'm sorry. And apparently Lala is not going to forgive me. But these are Bracers of the First Men. That these were re-rolled for fire skills increases fire skill damage by 20%, 650 strength, 130 all res, increases your crit chance by 6%, has been augmented with a level 80 gem for plus 400 strength, secondary property of increases gold pickup range by 2 yards, and the Hammer of the Ancients, a legendary ability, so that way Hammer of the Ancients attacks 50% faster and deals 500% increased damage. Oh, okay, now she'll forgive me. Only because I said 900. Just so you know, on this show, because I am 9 ball, that anytime that anyone says 9, you have to say 9, just for future reference.
No problem.
You said 9 a couple of times, and I let it go. I let it go, because you're new here. You don't want to poke fun at the new guy. They don't know the customs, but from this point forward, all like 5 minutes that remain in the episode, we're watching you. But this one was sent in by. I mean, this has been like the night of not only just a ridiculous number of items of the week, but some names that are just like engraved in all of us. Because this one comes in from Mikey. I haven't seen him here in the chat, but Mikey, hope you're doing well. This one is Ancient Scythe of the Cycle. That's 2,388 DPS. It's 992 intelligence, reduces cooldown of all skills by 7%, and reduces all resource costs by 9%. 2% chance to blind on hit for the secondary, and the legendary ability of that, your secondary skills do 355% additional damage while bone armor is active, but reducing the remaining duration. A beautiful little item that he's gone through and found, one of his highlights of his seasonal play so far. And our final item of the week, this one comes in from Darklighter. This one is the Traveler's Pledge. Not ancient, not primal, but still really good because it's 724 strength, increases critical hit damage by 92%, critical hit chance by 8.5%, secondary effects of 149 lightning resist, 5,000 thorns Thorns damage, I can talk, promise, and an empty socket with no rerolls. So this one's actually really awesome because that will take you on for a while, and then eventually when you get to the point, you can just roll off the strength for whatever you need. You know, whether you want to go for the elemental damage or you need cooldown reduction or what have you. You forgot Minion and I, but you haven't forgotten Mikey. No longer forgiven. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Yeah, that goes through, and that brings us back to the end of the show here. And as I said, you know, that was we had a lot of people going through, and we're really proud of their finds so far, because this is pretty much everything that people have been finding in season 12. And by all means, if you want to share your own story here on the show, or if you want to share, you know, like your awesome items, your epic loot, feel free. Go in, email us. It's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. So that way you can go through, have your story read, or your awesome loot showcased on the show. Again, that is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. So far on this episode, haven't seen any new iTunes review, but again, like I mentioned on the last episode, it took like a month for those last iTunes reviews to go through and pop up, you know, given from when they were dated, and I always check it before every episode and when it appears. So I'm sorry if it's something that you left a comment a while ago and I haven't gotten to it, but eventually, hopefully, it'll pop up and I'll be able to go through and read it. But we definitely appreciate any of those reviews over on iTunes. It really helps us out with our visibility for the show. We pretty much already are I want to say the most popular Diablo podcast that's out there, but hey, it helps reach a larger community of some people that might not know that there are, you know, Diablo podcasts that are out there. Just try and go through and spread the word. And that pretty much is going to bring us to the end. And before I go through and do my full outro, now I'm going to give the platform over to you for a little bit, and, you know, like one last time. Any shout outs you want to give, anything that you want to talk about, promote, or hey, any dick jokes that you might have, lay them on us.
No dick jokes. I didn't bring Breakpoint with me. Guys, if you check out the stream, I'm sure he's got plenty, as well as Draves. Just my crew, Westbell, Katya, the best mod I could ever ask for, Spastic 1973, aka Voldy Mitsu, Dank Bonk Ripper, still with that name, man, Nate, Sharkbait for the help early in the season, and then he disappears, but Tavibas is here, Green Anoli, Vital Essence, thank you guys very much. Watson, you guys are just awesome. I love playing with you guys, and hopefully everybody's season 12 is just the best season that you could have, and hopefully you accomplish your goals, that sort of thing, and hopefully I accomplish mine. I'm shooting for a top 100 bunk this season by the end of the season. So far, it's going very well.
Well, that's good to hear, and I definitely wish you best of luck in that. And yeah, and it's previous seasons, you always kind of knew around where that you might have to go in order to get that top 100 spot. But right now, like, who knows? Sky's the limit. I think that's one of the things. I don't know if it's going to make competition rougher for those people that are going for those spots, because you don't know how high everyone else is going to push. You don't know where you are in the running of things.
Exactly. Right now, I'm just trying to stay within 10 GRs of the leader, so that when the time comes to push, I can push. I am sitting on almost 300 bounty mats, getting ready to re-roll, that sort of thing.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes during one of my streams.
Yeah, well, definitely wish you the best of luck on that one. For the listeners here on Twitch right now, went through, linked his channel in the chat, so you can go through and follow. And we'll hit you up one last time on where people can go through and follow you as we go into the outro. I'm introing the outro. You can tell that, you know, I'm 100% a professional, and I've been doing this podcast for like over 2 years now, right? But yes, as I mentioned before, you can go through and you can follow the if you have any feedback, comments, or items that you want to show off on the show, show on the show, you can email us at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. We're also on Twitter. We're at the WM Workshop. And now that you can make like character names and stuff like that longer, we could potentially change it, but I think we're just going to leave it as is. But we stream here every other Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. Sorry, I screwed my own self up with the 9 there. I will get in on this. But if you like what we do, feel free to go through, check out the rest of the channel. We are a Blizzard-centric channel. On Monday nights, we have Well Met, our Hearthstone podcast. Tuesday nights is the Heroes Power Hour, and Thursday nights is Payload, our Overwatch podcast. You can go through, click the follow button, get notified of whenever we go live. And if you want to go through and support us, feel free to go and hit that subscribe button, because it helps out BlizzPro as a whole for like the web hosting costs and everything, for not just our wonderful website, but the podcast, because those hosting fees are higher than what you'd expect. We're going through and putting up there. And speaking of our beautiful website, you can always go through and check out everything and more that we talked about on the show at diablo.blizzpro.com. We are even in game. We are the BlizzPro clan. I believe we do still have some open spots at the moment. We're kind of hitting a little bit of a lull in the season as we're about closing in on a month in. So some people are kind of like going through, dropping off. So we got opportunity. We got some room. If you want in, go ahead, hit us up. Best place to go through. You can always just go through and request the invite in game. But we always appreciate it if you send us an email. Let us know a little bit about you. To go through and get in the clan. And if, hey, you played in previous seasons, were in the clan, and you got booted due to inactivity, by all means, feel free to go through and hit us up again in order to get back in. If you don't want to leave your current clan, you can always join us in the Westmarch Workshop community. Just search for that in the social panel. And we even on Discord at discord.gg/BlizzPro to come hang out and chat. And then, of course, you can go through, you can follow us individually. I am at 9ballgamer on Twitter, as well as twitch.tv/9ball. Whether or not my ability to stream comes until January, given my current work schedule, we will see. And, of course, Leviathan, once he is feeling better, you can follow him at LeviathanD3 and at twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And Mr. WolfCryer, where can people find you on the interwebs?
It can be found at twitch.tv/WolfCryer and youtube.com/WolfCryer. As far as Twitter goes, that would be at WolfCryerYT. And that's pretty much it right now. You guys can definitely follow the stream. I will be streaming later tonight. One thing I definitely want to say is a big, giant thank you to you, 9ball, and to Leviathan for setting this up and having me on here. It was definitely a pleasure. I hope to come back someday. So
certainly,
just let me know.
Oh yeah, certainly. And this is definitely something we will have to talk, because there's a lot, I'm sure, that I completely missed that Leviathan is going to want to talk about. So we'll have to flip it on you, invite you back, and then I take the night off, and then Leviathan solo hosts in order to go through and do that. That's just fitting. And then it also, it's like this unfortunately isn't the first time that it's happened. We've had a couple of times where we've had a special guest on, and then one of us couldn't make it, and so it luck always seems to work out that way.
Life happens.
Oh yeah, comes at you fast. But with that, thank you everybody, and good night.